4 years solid.
The owner of 𝗦𝘁 CFO, which is a firm of fractional CFOs. Yes. Yeah, good, thank you. You? Yep. I can't hear anything, just so you know. I don't know if it's just me.
I see. I'm sorry. I was just talking to myself. Me and my fat thumbs. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So that is good now. Right. I'll restart then. So, good afternoon and welcome to Startup Finances Q&A. This is our 7th monthly Q&A where I invite some amazing people to join us here for an hour and help founders with whatever questions you may have in terms of your finances and that journey from startup to scale up. The idea is quite simple. We'll be here for an hour. We'll start with some quick introductions. Then we'll open it for questions from the audience. And then, well, actually, just before the questions, we'll go on to some do's and don'ts from the panelists that we have. And then after that, we will go on to direct questions from our founders. A quick reminder that if you're listening via our live streams, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there live. So if you do want to ask us anything, you'll have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. And it's audio only, which means you can tune in via any platform or device. And being audio only means that if you're like me, you don't need to spend 2 hours in front of the mirror before joining this call. Quickest way to join us is to go onto our website, startuptoscaleup.club. You find today's session by scrolling down. It's easy to find it. Startup Finances Q&A 07. Click join. It's a quick registration, and that gets you a link to your email. And through that link, you can then join us here on Microsoft Teams. Once you're here, you'll then be able to ask any questions you want to our panel of CFOs and I think accountants as well. In terms of how this works, we are here to help UK startups only. Unfortunately, we don't get involved with finances in other countries. So if you are a UK founder and you want to make better sense of your business finances, then this is definitely the place to be for, well, the next 54 minutes. So again, once you're here, simply drop your question in the chat. We give you the mic, and then you can ask the team on the panel. Now, in terms of questions, they can be on anything to do with finances. And literally, there's no wrong questions, and there's no need for you to be shy. You may want to get an idea, I don't know, in terms of cash flow, budgeting, profit and loss, payroll, perhaps even employee benefits, taxation, bookkeeping, VAT, auditing, loans, banking, fraud, projections, forecasts, templates, and all that jazz. However, if your questions today are not on finances, please save them for the other conversations we have. On Mondays, it's talent. On Tuesdays, it's product and tech. On Wednesdays, it's growth. On Thursdays, it's fundraising. Second Friday of each month is UK startup law. And third Friday of each month, as you can see today, is UK startup finances. And by the way, all our sessions are recorded. I see somebody has typed here whether we are recording these. Yes, they are recorded. And they would then be available for people to view after as well, if you like. Eventually, our plan is to edit them, just polish them a little bit, and then publish them as podcasts. But that is taking a little longer than I would like to. So I guess without further ado, we'll go through some quick introductions. Then again, as I said, it's do's and don'ts, and then we'll start taking questions from the audience. So my name's 𝗦𝘁𝗿𝗏. I'm an Albanian in London working with startups normally right after they get investment. I embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people. I also do some growth advisory work with some other startups and accelerators, and I help some angels and family offices with their due diligence and their assessments. I think what we can do, if I remember correctly, we had, was it Andrea, then probably Harriet or Sophie? I can't remember which one of you was first, but tell you what, let's go with Andrea, Harriet, Sophie, and then Michael, please.
Hi, guys. Hello, it's Andrea 𝗏𝗏𝗏. I run an accountancy practice called Accounts Navigator, have done for the last 22 years. We specialise in management accounts so that all our clients understand their figures to make the right decisions for their business.
Hello, I'm Harriet Formby. I run Below the Line Finance, Chartered Accountants and Fractional CFOs. I work with mostly mission-led startup scale-ups and business owners, and yeah, very much around kind of, you know, good finances for growth, cash flow, fundraising, and also touch on the kind of more human elements of money and how we interact with that as entrepreneurs.
Hi, I'm Sophie Wright. I'm a fractional CFO and owner of 𝗦𝘁 CFO, which is a firm of fractional CFOs. We're a team of 9 in London. We specialize in helping tech businesses, media, creative, and some not-for-profit as well. We've been doing this for, next month will be 11 years. Thanks.
Yeah, hi, my name is Michael. I work at 𝗦𝘁 𝗙𝗡. I am the internal finance person for the VC firm. I've been doing that for just over 2 years, but prior to that, my history has been in private equity.
Amazing. Thank you very much to all 4 of you. Well, you've heard them, people. We've got some brilliant people on the panel today. So let's make use of them as much as we possibly can. How about some do's and don'ts? I'm sure you've seen a lot of things go wrong, but hopefully you've also seen people do things nicely. How about we hear 1 do and 1 don't each, please? And let's not use the same logic for both. So let's try and pick something different. Maybe on this, we can start with Sophie, Harriet, Andrea, and last but not least, Michael. 1 do and 1 don't of early stage finances that you think is really important for startups. Take it away, Tim.
Okay, hi. So for early stage startups, so when you're just beginning, my do is to just get some help in making sure that your finances are set up correctly from the beginning. So if you're, say you're going to set up in Xero or QuickBooks or whatever your accounting platform you choose, you know, and I know in the early days you don't have a lot of money, but even if you just spend, you know, to pay someone an hour to just help you set up correctly, then yeah, you won't have to do a lot of fixing afterwards. My don't is what is my don't? My don't, sorry, I should have done this before. I've drawn a blank.
Sophie, don't worry about
sorry.
it. We can come back to you after. No, okay. Totally fine. We can come back to you after. Don't worry.
I think it was me next, but I'm sorry if I'm jumping in too soon. I would say my do is to treat. Sometimes we treat kind of like creating a budget and a cash flow and a forecast maybe as like an academic exercise when we start the business. And I know there's a lot going on, but try to keep them as live documents. So rather than something that you tick off and go, right, I've got one of those, I'll put that over here. Keep it as something you're iterating constantly, because things will change rapidly in the early days, and you want to try and make sure that the financial information you've got is telling the same story as the rest of the businesses, and you're keeping track of things. And I'd say in terms of a don't, I'd say, and you know, timely because of this session, is kind of don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, sometimes there's fear around the finance side and it feels very daunting, and my experience is always when you ask for help with the right sort of people, things feel a lot less daunting or confusing. So people are wanting to help, so make sure you do take all the opportunities you can to have that support.
Okay, so mine is get an accountant from day one. I see setups that are done incorrectly when people have done them on their own. If you have an accountant on board from day one, then they're going to be able to guide you in your setup, if you're set up in the correct way. Shares also, setting all those things up correctly, giving you general advice on how to do your accounts. You know, I would get an accountant on board from day one. They're an investment in your business, not a cost, and you really need to get them on board. And my don't would be, don't listen to Dave down the pub, because he's rarely correct.
So I would say for my do, I guess set out your key metrics quite early and track them as early as possible, just so you kind of are monitoring things which will, in time, if you are coming to fundraise and you are coming to like look to investors, you have, I guess, metrics and information you can provide them quickly in terms of helping them with their due diligence. And then my don't is, don't take too long before you either start documenting things or tracking things. So definitely kind of make sure that you have things regularly, kind of make sure you put time aside to kind of put things in order and organize yourself, so that one, you're on top of things, and two, when other people come to help and support you, that it's easier to kind of for them to help them find things in order to kind of help you, so to speak. So yeah, my do is definitely kind of track what's happening and track your key information, your key metrics, and also make sure that you're not documenting and organizing yourself, which is obviously hard, especially when you're a startup and you're trying to do so many things at the same time, but it definitely helps you in the long run.
Yeah. Sophie, do you still want to go with that?
Sure.
Is it do or don't?
It was
Sorry.
the don't.
The don't.
Thank you. My don't is to not give away too much for free or anything, even nothing. And it's different than sampling. There's nothing wrong with giving out some samples, but I think there's this thing where, especially if you're a very early startup, I think some people, like clients, might take advantage and say, oh, do this for us for free, whatever it is that you do it for us for free, and we'll do a case study and we'll tell everyone how great you are, and that'll be great for your business. And I've seen this a lot. And people often go for it, and actually they just end up completely over-servicing, and they don't get you're worth something. Your time is worth, and people should pay for what you do. That's my don't.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much to all four of you. Those are some amazing do's and don'ts. And I guess just a quick reset of the conversation. Just a reminder to everybody that we've had over 280,000 people that have tuned into our Q&A since, when was it? 29th of March, 2021. And we've helped over about 3,000 founders in these sessions. None of that would have happened without people like Andrea, Sophie, Harriet, and Michael. So please, the least you can do is reach out to them on LinkedIn and follow them there. So if you'd like to drop your LinkedIn URLs, team, that would be great. And actually, even the others, the audience here, feel free in the chat to drop your LinkedIn and where you are, and maybe what is it you do, or what your startup is about. Please feel free to do that. Just a quick reminder, this is Startup Finances Q&A. We do this every month, third Friday of each month, where we try to help founders make better understand and hopefully successfully manage your startup finances. You can ask us any questions you may have in terms of UK finances for your startup. There are no wrong questions. There are no silly questions, and there's no need to be shy, because it's a learning curve for us all. In terms of financial questions, they can be on anything from your cash flow to budgeting, profit and loss, payroll, I don't know, employee benefits, taxation, bookkeeping, VAT, auditing, loans, banking, fraud, projection, forecasting, templates, and all that jazz. For those of you that are on the live streams, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there live, so you'll have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, which means you can join us from anywhere via any platform or device. All you have to do is go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Again, startuptoscaleup.club. Scroll down a little bit, you'll find Startup Finances Q&A 07. Click join. It's a quick registration. That gets you a link to your email, and through that link, you can join this audio call of ours. Once you've done that, simply type your question in the chat, and then we'll give you the mic and you can ask our team. Now, your questions, though, are not on finance. Don't worry. You can save them for the other sessions we run. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising. Once a month, every second Friday, we have a UK startup law, and once a month again on finances, third Friday of each month, we have this session on UK startup finances. And now, without further ado, we'll go on to our first question. This was sent in to us, okay, Bradford. My God, I don't think I've started with an easy one. But this is on modeling sensitivity to supply cost increases. So the startup, it's a green tech startup producing eco-friendly home insulation materials. They're based in Bradford. The challenge they have is that the company faces fluctuating raw material costs, making it difficult to predict profit margins in its financial models. Jesus. The situation they're at is revenue generating, supported by Innovate UK grants and angel investments. So the question is, as a green tech startup facing volatile raw material costs, how can we use sensitivity analysis to model the impact of supplier price increases on profit margins and cash flow? What UK-specific factors, such as access to supply chain grants, procurement tax reliefs, or index-linked pricing agreements, should we include to improve resilience and refine our financial projections? I often say in pretty much all our Q&As that the top 3 reasons for, unfortunately, over 90% of startups failing are 1, market fit, 2, running out of money, and 3, not having the right people. But I've got to say, getting your finances right is actually probably at the top of everything, because this, to me, doesn't make sense. And I've run a few startups, so imagine other people that are doing this for the first time. So hopefully, my amazing panel will put me out of my misery, and at least, if not give the right advice, at least it sheds some light on what these terms mean. Let's start with perhaps some of the panelists that have been the longest in our finances Q&A. So maybe we can start with Harriet, Sophie, Andrea, and again, we'll leave the gentleman last, and then Michael for now, and then we'll start swapping it a little bit. So Harriet, Sophie, Andrea, and Michael, please. What are your thoughts on this? Let's try and keep it to about a minute each if we can. And I know it's not easy.
So on this, I would say, in essence, we don't want to subsidize fluctuating raw material costs, for example. So I, just as a general observation, I would say that we need to, I personally wouldn't be looking straight away at grants and reliefs and that sort of thing. I would be steering more towards trying to understand what's going on. And you've mentioned volatile raw materials costs, but I'm sure there's going to be data published, and there's probably big suppliers perhaps that publicize their price increases. And I would want to model the pricing model, essentially factoring in enough margin for fluctuating prices, and it might be that we have to make assumptions, for example, you know, annual increases, if that's how they work. If they're more volatile than that, then we need to have some sort of buffer in the pricing system. And then of course, if you're then saying, well, actually, I don't know how early stage you are, but maybe it's a case that you need to, you know, to be able to initially build up resilience and cash reserves. You obviously go for the grants if it helps you get kind of prototypes going and things initially set up and gives you that buffer for changing prices. But your overall, you know, to sort of flourish, your overall business model, I would say, needs to be able to be profitable even when those raw materials, you know, they can't be so sensitive that what you're doing needs to be adding enough, you know, generating enough value in itself that it can't be too swayed by underlying raw material costs, which I know is difficult because obviously that could be a good component of the cost. So I'm not saying it's an easy task. That's where I'd begin.
Hi. So yeah, I don't really know about supply chain grants or the procurement tax relief, but what I would say, three things. One, I completely agree with Harry about having buffer. I mean, everyone should always have that anyway. But like when you're pricing up, yeah, say you want to make, I don't know, 30% margin, always, you know, just charge a little more and just and so you've got a little bit of breathing room. The next thing would be I was a fresh CFO for a business who had a very similar situation with rising prices of raw materials, and what we had to do was just really negotiate hard with, like, you know, say bulk buying, or like, oh, if we promise to buy this much in advance, you know, will you lock the price in for the next 3 months, that kind of thing. So whatever it is, however it is that you buy, what you do, that to definitely negotiate hard on and try and find some solutions there. And then the third thing was also to make sure that, you know, however your external contracts are for your clients, that there is some room for flexibility in the contract, so that, because what you don't want is you're promised to sell something for £10 for the next year and your price keeps going 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, where at least if it really goes up, you can then increase the sales price too. So you don't want to be trapped contractually not to be able to do that.
Hi, yeah, I was just going to say, as Sophie just said, it was negotiating with your suppliers, try and lock in prices for a certain amount of time. If you can lock in with your suppliers a price for a year, then you know what your prices are going to be for you, and therefore you can charge accordingly. Yeah, that would be my best advice, is to lock in prices with your suppliers, irrelevant of what's happening in the markets. See if they will agree to do that.
Have you ladies and Michael come across any good tricks or tips to lock in costs ahead of time for, I don't know, a certain period of time? And I know now I'm asking you to move from finances to commercial/negotiation tactics, but have you come across anything that you were like, wow, that's a good trick? Anyone can pick this up.
For me, I'm just going to say it's just good client relations, and with my suppliers, you know, you've just got to have good relationships with them. If you're talking to them all the time, then it's easier to lock things in. I mean, for me, it's always about communication and talking with people, and that become their best friend, and that we do a lot of that. And yeah, you can get good prices because of it.
Fair enough. Michael, what are your thoughts on that question? I'm sorry, did Sophie or somebody else want to add in as well? Sorry, bud.
Oh, I was just going to say, just not to be afraid to ask. Just always ask. I think there's a lot of that. A lot of people are like, oh, this is the price, and I'm going to accept it. And just to be brave and just, you know, even if it's almost, you know, oh, she's asking for a price sit down again, you know, like just never be afraid of asking. It's not a tip, but it's just, yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, Michael, sorry, buddy.
Yeah, I was going to say, to be honest, it's a combination of what Andre and Sophie said. You don't, you know, it's a guaranteed no if you never ask in the first place. And more often than not, they will either fostering those good relationships, or I guess if it's a price that you're happy with, kind of seeing, yeah, like Sophie said, just asking generally. And maybe in some instances, if you're willing to negotiate, maybe paying a little bit more, but asking to pay that little bit extra over a period of time, so that you're not kind of met with fluctuating amounts. That could be something that works. I guess, yeah, it varies depending on who you're talking to. So I couldn't necessarily say there's one particular way that's done better than another. But yeah, sorry, what was the original question again, if you mind me asking?
Of course, yeah, it's in the chat if you want to have a look at it, but I'll read it out loud again. So this is on modeling sensitivity to supply cost increases.
Oh yeah, sensitivity analysis to model the impact of supplier prices. I don't think I can add more than what's been said, other than maybe have more than one budget, have more than one forecast, a best case scenario and a worst case scenario, average out what you've kind of been paying over a period of time, and use that to kind of help forecast further along down the line as well. That would, I guess, in addition to what's already been said, those would be my next 2 bits of advice, maybe.
Good on, thank you very much for that. Right here, we'll now go on to another question that was sent in to us. And once we're doing that, the people that are here on Microsoft Teams, if you've got any questions, please feel free to just drop it in the chat. There literally are no wrong questions, and we're here to help. I'll read this other one. Okay. Overheads allocation for startups with shared office space. They're a clean tech startup developing urban air purification systems out of Lancaster. The challenge they have is that the company shares its office space with another startup, complicating the allocation of rent and utilities across its operational departments. They're a pre-revenue supported by Innovate UK grants and angel funding. So the question again that she asks is, as a clean tech startup sharing office space, how can we allocate rent and utility costs fairly across our operational departments to reflect accurate overhead distribution? What UK specific practices, such as HMRC approved cost sharing agreements, or lease analysis for proportional apportionment, should we adopt to ensure clarity in our financial records and compliance with grant reporting requirements? The question she asks, you think there's 100 people working there. On LinkedIn, I can only see 4, but maybe they have engineers and other sort of people who don't normally bother to have a LinkedIn profile. So I'm not sure at what stage they're at. But maybe we can have Andrea, then Sophie, then Michael, then Harriet. What are your thoughts on this, Tim?
Hi, yeah. So usually, I mean, shared costs are split by number of desks that each company is using. That's how majority of the clients that I use, if they're in a shared office space, it's based on, you know, if there was 10 desks in the office and 4 was for one company and 6 was for the other, it'd be 60-40% splits. Yeah, I'd keep it simple, and that HMRC always likes you to keep it simple. That would make it really simple, and that just split it by the number of desks for each business.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. That's what I've done many times. I mean, before people started working from home or remotely, it was kind of just number of people. But now, if it's just office space, and if you have, you know, you might have 50 people working remotely, then just use the desks. unless you have, you know, the only, if you have, say, you're using 2 boardrooms or something and it takes up half the space, okay, those aren't desks, but maybe the other startup has one tiny little phone booth or something, you know, then you might want to do it by square footage. But if you're not talking about boardrooms and that kind of stuff, then just use desks.
Yeah, I don't have anything more to add, to be honest. It's not necessarily my area of expertise, but based on the limited experience I have had with it, it's as Andrea and Sophia saying.
All right.
The only thing I'd really add, I suppose, is just because you've mentioned, and I know it says shared office space, but I just mentioned that if there are people, you've mentioned developing urban air purification systems. So if you have got an element of production as well, which I don't think it necessarily is, but if it was, then you might want to look at the utilities differently, because I'm guessing there might be machinery and stuff. And then that would be more on usage. You know, that would probably have more usage than people on laptops or whatever. So just bear that in mind. And the other thing you mentioned about Innovate UK, just to be mindful that you may need to report differently. So you may have your company accounts, the management accounts and annual accounts, etc., how you do things there. And because Innovate UK is very prescriptive about grant reporting, just be mindful that you may need to follow their specific method about how you allocate, you know, if you're claiming people's time, for example, how you allocate overhead back to them. So just be mindful that you may need to do separate reporting following their rules, regardless of what you choose to do in the company.
Thank you very much, Tim. And now that I have you here on this question, most startups used to work from work long before it was, or it kind of became a bit trendy, long before the pandemic. And often, most startup founders that I've met, including yours truly, had trouble, well, figuring that within your sort of tax at the end of each year, whether they did it self-employed or through the company. What's your view? What is the best way to go about it when you're working from home to try and put that through some kind of expenses? And I'll throw this in the open. I'm not going to go to every one of you because probably there isn't much to add, but whoever wants to take this first.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, carry on, go on now.
Yeah, no, we offer our clients a home office calculator. I mean, the government tells you can claim £27 a month for working from home. But we actually have, if you have the actual original costs of your home expenses, then you are allowed to claim them proportionately based on the time used that you're actually working from home. And so we have a home office calculator spreadsheet that we give to all our clients so that they can actually calculate it accurately based on the bills, based on the gas and the electric bill, based on mortgage interest or rent that they're paying for their home, how many rooms they're using in their house for this. And our clients fill that out and calculate it accordingly so that they can get a fairer cost usage of running their business from home.
That's brilliant. So my understanding was that if you're working from home, for example, in terms of mortgage, but I'm assuming it's the same for rent, is let's say you have a 4 or 5 bedroom house, you tend to use one as an office and you split your mortgage by 4 or 5. Is that right? Or something along those lines?
Yeah, but you need to allocate time as well. It's so, how many are you actually working in there? So we do how many days and how much hours per day that you actually work. So we drill it right down so it's actually accurate, and that so that HMRC can't come for you. And it's the mortgage interest. You can't claim the capital. You can claim the mortgage interest or the rent percentage wise.
Okay, I hear that's quite an interesting one. Anyone else? Any other thoughts on top of what Andrea mentioned?
If you are a limited company, you can also create a rental agreement between often yourself as the homeowner and yourself as the limited company director and owner of the business, and do it that way. And there's again, there'd be a rent that, you know, there's admin to do. There's some form of rent agreement and invoicing system, and then you need to account. You know, you take the actual costs versus what you're charging the company, and then you'd report that on your self-assessment. So it's a bit of work to set up, but it does enable you to factor that in a, you know, in a sort of more of a, it can still be your own house. It doesn't mean that you have to have a separate office or something, but that's another option as well.
I'm sorry, Harriet, because my ignorance just kicked in big time. Are you saying that if it's your house, you can rent it to your company or to yourself for office space? Is that?
Yes, but it's not the whole
Okay.
house. It's still it might be like a room, so you could
Of
still
course,
have,
yeah.
like an office room, for example, and then you would charge. I'm just going to make up figures, but say you charged, you know, it's a decent room, all set up nicely for working from. It's £500 a month, say. I'm not saying that's the right number. I'm just picking a round number. Then you invoice the company for that, and then you could pay yourself that amount each month for the rent, and then you would then, a bit like Andrea said, you actually capture what the actual costs were, and then you would, on your own self-assessment, you say, well, I've had this rental income and this is my costs that were apportioned to do with that space, and it's obviously a deductible, that the actual rent charge then is deductible against corporation tax, and you can pay.
Would that create
the profit essentially, and it might affect your capital gains if you sell your house. Obviously, I'm setting people up to, if you do that, obviously make sure you do it properly. Otherwise, there might be unintended consequences.
I hear. Well, that was going to be my next question on this matter. Now, you know, will that then open a can of worms in terms of you having your house as a business now, and you now need to do a lot more work to get that sorted?
It would be a portion. So if it was, say you had 10 rooms in your house, I'm not saying that that's the right number to use, but it's one room out of 10, so it'd be 1/10 of, you know, that could potentially come into a calculation on capital gains, but it would be obviously, say, 90% personal, 10% business, for example.
Once that sounds like it could work for some reason, and again, this is coming from somebody who hates anything to do with finances, unfortunately, and from, I have to be honest, from what I see, most founders are almost as useless as I am. But it just sounds that it's probably best to kind of use, not best, it's less work to use that old fashion of what most people used to do, to I just divide the mortgage that you pay and just put that through. But I hear what you're saying, that could work for some people. Good stuff. Thank you for that, Harry. Okay, Tahani, I've given you the mic. Are you audible? Can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Brilliant. Tahani, if you would like to introduce yourself, and then we can try, and although this question would have probably also been good for our fundraising Q&A that we have every Thursday.
I don't mind. I can
no, that's okay.
But time and ask.
No, that's all right. Hopefully, the people here might be able to answer it. If not, then maybe we can see you on Thursday. Team, can you see a question that Tahani put in the question? In the chat, sorry. Are you guys okay to go through it, or would you rather defer?
I can go through it.
All right, perfect. Just before you go ahead then, Tahani, please introduce yourself for those listening on the live streams, and I guess tell us a bit about your startup, and then carry on with your question.
Thank you. And I'm Tahani. I'm CEO of TS3D Ventures. So I've just got a startup in 3D printing and construction industry. So I was just thinking, I was advised by my legal team that instead of raising the full round of 750K, I should be raising 380, which should take me to the first showcase home. and then I should add 370, which should complete the round. So I was just wondering, like, is there any formula where I can use to, like, because equity should based on 380K now. So how do I go about doing it?
Thank you very much for that, Tahani. That is definitely a question more suited to the fundraising one, but we're okay to go through it now. Before I pass you on to Michael, and then if any of the ladies want to add anything as well, my best advice to founders is forget about valuation, forget about equity, not worry, but focus on what you need to raise now so that you can keep the lights on for the next 12 to 18 months and take you to the next stage. Once you have that in mind, especially at this early stage, equity and valuations are more of an art rather than a science. But rule of thumb can be anything between 8 to 20 something percent at this stage, which I know is quite wide. But the idea is focus on what you're going to get in terms of money and what percentage these people want to take out of you, because that will obviously then be, that equity and percentage will change as you go along and raise more money. But I'll pass you on to the experts and we'll take it from there. So maybe we can go with Michael, and then if the ladies want to add anything, Harriet, Andrea, and Sophie, please.
Yes, as Anton said, this is definitely probably more suited to a fundraising Q&A. However, the formula itself isn't complicated, truth be told. I mean, to be honest, if you even asked ChatGPT, it probably would have given it to you. If your valuation is staying, if your pre-money valuation, which is the valuation you've agreed upon and decided, is staying static and not changing, that's what really is going to determine what your equity percentage, how it's going to change. Because I'll plug the formula into the chat, but all that's happening is your formula is basically your asking amount. So let's say your original asking amount, you would divide that by your pre-money, your post-money valuation, which is your pre-money valuation plus your asking amount, and then you times the total amount by 100. So if your asking amount has changed and your pre-money valuation hasn't changed, then your equity will change because your post-money number will change. So I'm literally going to press send now, and you'll see it in the chat. But yeah, that's basically it. It's as long as your pre-money valuation isn't changing, then your equity that you're offering up, you'll see the different number, so to speak.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much. And if I may, and I'd love, just before the ladies, I'm sorry I keep interrupting, and I'd love your thoughts, Michael, and ladies on this, but what I've pretty much always tried to guide founders that ask about valuation and equity. Now, of course, for your business, it may be a bit different, Tahani, because you may have already bought loads of equipment and all that jazz. But this is for startups that haven't really spent a ton of money on that. Is, let's say you're going for 700K, and that investor then says, I want 20% of your equity. What that means is 700 times 5. And then that is how much your company is valued at. Because it's 20%, it's 1 of 5, which makes 100%. I don't know if I explained it well, but that's the idea in terms of valuation. And then, based on that, post money that Michael mentioned, then who owns what in terms of percentage. But let's hear it from the ladies. So I think we said Harriet, Andrea, and then Sophie, didn't we? Ladies, anything else to add here?
I don't think I've got much to add. I just say that, my personal view on kind of when you're valuing very early stage startups, it is quite arbitrary. And I just say, make sure you, map out what you want to do and get the numbers to fit. And it's great that we've got a formula there. I'd say at this stage, it's just I guess going through the motions more so, but yeah, I haven't got anything else to add.
And nothing more to add.
That's okay, Sophie.
Yeah, no, not much to add either. Actually, I guess the only comment would be just to make sure you don't give too much away. I think some people get really excited about money coming in and their investment, and then suddenly they don't. Suddenly they're a minority shareholder. You got to be just be aware. And yeah, and I mean, similar to your advice, Anton, of just how looking at how much you need. I think there's a fine art of making sure you ask for enough, because you don't want to ask for too little and suddenly you can't do what you promised you would do or deliver. But you also don't want to ask for way too much either. So it's a bit of a fine art. So get some outside help with that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tahani, can I ask you, are you sort of equipment heavy? What is the situation at the moment?
No, I haven't, because my tech partners, they are going to send the equipment in to me from California. So I'm kind of leasing the equipment from my tech partners, really, to deliver. So this money which I'm raising initially, 380K, is to just the show home, really, in UK on our showing our technology, because I've got interest from 14 unit conversion from a London council, and they want to see a show home before. My idea was to really get a project and start working on a project, but it's not gonna work that way. Unfortunately, I have to get the equipment in and build a showroom myself, and then show house, and then get those projects, really, which I've got intent from the councils.
Hey, my advice then would be on this, try to raise, so don't focus on the first 380, but try to raise the full 700, although you may not raise it all at once. Try to raise it and agree to around 20% of that. And then that way, if they're taking 20% and they're giving you eventually 700K, it means that your company, after raising that money, will be valuated at around 3.5 million. And then in terms of the shares initially, you'll have 80% of that and 20 for these investors. And then as you bring in other people, that will start changing bit by bit. But again, don't worry about that now. Focus on finding the money and being really prudent in terms of, and frugal at the same time, in terms of how much you're raising, and clarify and why you need it and all that stuff. But in your head, try and think, what is it you're really going to need to keep the lights on for the next 12 to 18 months, ideally 2 years if you can. That's what you should try to raise at this stage. But it's not going to be easy unless you know people and all that jazz. That's a different story, but it's not going to be easy. So just bear that in mind as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I've posted the link to next week's fundraising Q&A. We'll have some amazing investors on the panel. Please feel free to register on that and join us next Thursday.
Okay, that's brilliant. I'll do that, because I thought so. This question was more based on finance, but not from financial accounting. Definitely.
Good stuff. Best of luck, and very well done, by the way, Tahani. So hopefully we'll be able to help you next time. Just a quick reminder to everybody, this is Startup Finances Q&A. It's our 7th session now. We do this every month. And the idea is that we're here to help startups with whatever questions you may have in terms of your startup journey, from starting up all the way to scale up. In terms of questions, we're taking all kinds of questions here today that are to do with finance, of course. So there are literally no wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy. You can ask us on anything from cash flow to budgeting, profits and loss, payroll, taxation, bookkeeping, VAT, auditing, loans, banking, fraud, projections, forecasting, templating, all that jazz. If you're on the live streams, though, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So if you do want to ask us anything, you'll have to come here on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, and simply go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club. You register. Well, you have to click join, quick registration, get you a link to your email, and then you can join us through that. If you've got questions on other matters, then save them for the other events we run. Mondays talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays growth, Thursdays fundraising. Second Friday of each month, it's UK Startup Law, and third Friday of each month, it's UK Startup Finances, that is. We've got 5 minutes to go, team. Have we got time for one more question, or shall we go and wrap it up? Okay, I will find another question that was sent in to us. I think this was, okay, this is another question that I wish I understood better, because I think it's quite important for a lot of startups. I'll put that in the chat. We've asked the first two questions, I believe. So this is the third one. I'll read it out loud for the live streams, and then the team can read it in the chat. Balancing deferred revenue with cash flow. It's a travel tech startup offering multi-day adventure packages for corporate clients. They're based in Leicester. Company collects full payments at booking, but struggles to balance deferred revenue accounting with cash flow needs during trip planning. So the situation is that they're revenue generating, seed funded with corporate partnerships. And the question is, as a travel tech startup collecting upfront payments for future services, how can we balance deferred revenue accounting with maintaining sufficient cash flow for trip planning? What UK specific tools, such as revenue forecasting linked to deferred schedules or regulatory compliant reporting frameworks, should we implement to ensure financial clarity for both operational planning and investor relations? Jesus. Let's go on to Harriet, Andrea, Sophie, and then Michael, please. Any thoughts on this?
So essentially, what's being asked is there's two things we need to do. We need to make sure that in the sort of P&L accounts, we account for the revenue when it's recognised, which will be, you know, when the trips or packages are delivered, and that potentially is over time. So it might be, I don't know exactly, but say it was a 6-month package, perhaps you need to recognise elements over 6 months. I might have got that wrong. It might be more like it's a short-term thing and they're pre-booking it and then it's not happening for a couple of months, but you'd want to recognise the revenue in your P&L in the month that it actually happens, because you've got a liability until you deliver that offer for them, that package, and you want to make sure that their money is recognised when you actually deliver it. From the cash flow side, then you've got, you know, probably costs to do with delivering it. So you may have, I don't know enough about what this is, but you might have to book things in advance to then deliver the package. And obviously, deferring the revenue is one thing, but you need cash flow to do that. And so on the cash flow side, you'd want to make sure that, you know, potentially within your bank account structure, that you've maybe got a pot or an account or a way of segregating money that is to do with the costs that are going to be involved with booking that thing. So that you've actually maintained the money. And if there's, I don't know, perhaps you've got to pay people, then it's in 6 months' time and there's people on the day that you need to pay for their services to do with the package. You need to make sure you're ring fencing those funds that, you know, aren't all just going into the bank to be spent. You need to make sure you're setting aside the funds that are to do with delivering it. So that's my initial thoughts anyway.
Hi, yeah. So everything Harriet said, what I find really interesting is that these startups they don't have a finance person involved that can answer these questions for them. If you have such complicated matters in your business, you really need to be focusing on having the right people in your team. And you know, obviously you can't, maybe as a startup, you can't afford to have full-time people in your team, but you know, these services available from fractional CFOs and stuff who can answer all these detailed questions and do all these wonderful spreadsheets for you, so that you can do all these things that you just need to do, and then, you know, yeah, work more closely with someone in finance.
Hi. Yeah, yeah, I mean, I agree with what everyone said. You deferred revenue, that's like just an accounting thing. You know, you raise, it gets booked in your sales, and you spread it out, or however, whenever the thing is taking place. But in terms of getting the money in advance and then making sure you don't spend it, basically, which I think is what the crux of what this is, and that you have enough to pay for the actual event. I mean, I think for each event, there should be quite a detailed little, like a mini P&L per event, so you know exactly what cost, and you know, and map out when is that going to be due for payment. Have a robust cash flow forecast, so you know per project when everything's going to be due, and so you know when you need to spend, what you need to spend when. And I think it might have been Harriet who said, I'm not sure, about you know, physically putting away money aside, which is always a good idea. And there's a lot of bank accounts do that, where you can have pots. And if not, that, you know, even when they all have a savings account, you can at least put it aside on there. But that's a good kind of discipline as well.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was confused by the question, because I couldn't tell whether they're talking about whether they need to budget well or whether they need to account properly. If you need to account properly, get yourself a proper accountant. Or, you know, Xero has, you know, things, using platforms such as Xero allow you to kind of put things out into separate projects and so forth, or use spreadsheets, etc. And then with regards to your budgeting, yeah, that's just on you to, as has been previously mentioned, either put money in separate pots or have more than one account. I don't know, however you choose to do so, that's kind of subjective, down to the person themselves. But yeah, if you need to sort out with regards to accounting, I mean, we have quite a number of fractional CFOs here, or there's other management accountants and so forth. So that's just an accounting thing which can be sorted out quite quickly. You either using the right platform or using a particular person.
You have a feeling, well, the way I understood it, it was a matter of both accounting and budgeting and kind of forecasting for the future. But right,
yeah,
well, we are. Yeah, sorry. Go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, with regards to, because it says that they get the money up front, so the money's there, and as they already said, they're just having to defer it. So they just need to use a good enough system to actually, I guess, account for it and plan it properly. That seems to be the case.
Here. Well, we are now 2 minutes over the line, and I am so grateful to all four of you, especially for your time and amazing inputs. Because I really think these are some really important questions. And you know, I wish you could join here live rather than just send the bleeding questions, because then the team would have a chance to ask some follow-ups, which would definitely make for more interesting conversations, but most importantly, would definitely get you probably better advice. Nevertheless, any parting words before I let you go, team? Let's start with the ladies. I guess Andrea, Sophie, Harriet, and last but not least, Michael. Any thoughts before we let you go?
Yeah, I'm going to say, and I say it all the time, I think it's really important that these businesses generally, that they have someone who is dedicated to the finance in their business to move their business along. We cannot make decisions without understanding our numbers. And yeah, I'm just going to keep emphasizing that to everybody. You need to understand your numbers to move your business forward. Get an accountant.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I mean, everyone needs an accountant for sure. But yeah, someone who can really give you some of this advice. And you don't need, you can get this kind of good top level advice even, hourly. So there's really no excuse. And yeah, just don't guess. Ask someone.
I just add to that, just to explain that I guess there is different types of accountants as well, and so, sometimes you might be, if you've got a basic accountant that does year-end stuff, they may not be able to answer these sort of things. So that's where you might need to speak to people that are more kind of, around the kind of commercial and the fundraising and that sort of thing. And it might be that you need to build on what you've got. So you've got your accountant to do your year end, and maybe you have extra support for other bits and pieces, or it might be the same person, but there's different types of accountant, just to confuse us a bit more. But otherwise, thank you for having me on today, and always good to go through the questions.
I think, mine is just an amalgamation of what everyone has said, to be honest. A lot of companies and a lot of founders can and do get by, doing stuff wishy-washy, but eventually it does catch up to you and it leads to a bigger mess. So it's best to get it sorted out quickly and to reach out to as many people as you can. And yeah, lots of people, as Harriet said, lots of people specialize in lots of different things. So, the accountant who's doing your year end might not necessarily be able to help with taxes on specific matters. They can go and learn and find out, but sometimes it does help to just get as much help and support as you can. And yeah, well done for coming on a platform like this, because that's what we're here for.
Well, thank you very much for that, team. What I'm getting from you, especially from the parting words, is if you want to have an easy life now, be prepared for a difficult one later. And if you want to have an easy life later, deal with the difficult stuff now. Just before my parting words, two things to mention. Number one, we run 6 regular sessions helping founders for free with pretty much on-demand tailored advice that hopefully works for you. On Mondays, it's talent. Tuesdays, product and tech. Wednesdays, growth. Thursdays, fundraising. Second Friday of each month is UK startup law. And third Friday of each month, as you can see today, it's UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can register to any of them via our site, startuptoscaleup.club. Actually, on that site, you'll also find an icon for WhatsApp, which is basically our community on WhatsApp at the top and bottom of our site. But most importantly, for those of you that are here on Microsoft Teams, I've just put a link in the chat, and we've created a group specifically for our Startup Finances Q&A, which means you can send questions ahead of time. You can ask for help in the chat with anything to do with your startup finances in the UK, that is, and connect with each other, connect with our panelists and other founders and investors and the people that will join these groups. So feel free to do that. Quick reminder to those of you on the live streams, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that whilst we're thankful that you join us, unfortunately, we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So you'll have to join us here on Microsoft Teams next time on any of our future events if you want to get help from our panels. It's really straightforward. You simply go onto our site, startuptoscaleup.club, find which session you want to join, click join, quick registration, gets you a link to your email, and then you join through that link. Just add it to your calendar. We'd appreciate it if you can spread the word. The more the merrier. Although we've had over 280,000 people join us, Now that we've moved on to Microsoft Teams, we're not getting the hundreds and hundreds of people we used to get. So, the more the merrier, I say. Please feel free to do that. And as far as my parting words are concerned, just remember the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime and be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter too. Otherwise, have a great weekend ahead of you. Hopefully we'll see you on Monday for Startup Talent. Thank you and God bless. Bye-bye for now.